Hello there again. Sorry I've got to rush this log because I'm busy planning a heist that definitely won't be the plot of an upcoming artist adaptation episode. But anyway, my name is Dalton Dickerhoof, also known as Dino Dude. I won't expel too much on my backstory because N.E.R.D already made several videos about those, so let's just start the story. So I was at the local observatory fighting off some Evansburg ink grunts, when a random portal opened up in the middle of the observatory. For a minute, my fight with the Evansburg minions stopped as they went to examine the portal. Suddenly, a small green xenomorph with long ears and a glowing green tail jumped from the portal and began slaughtering the Evansburg goons. At first, I was somewhat thankful for this, until it turned towards me. Given the fact that the xenomorph was green and had long ears and a lightsaber tail, and the fact that this episode is releasing on May the 4th, it didn't take me long to figure that this was a Yoda xenomorph. A Yoda-morph, if you will. I apologize, I will continue calling it a Yoda-morph for the rest of the episode. The Yoda-morph leapt at me, swinging its glowing tail at me. I was able to dodge while I thought to myself, why does this Yoda-morph have a lightsaber tail? Lightsabers aren't part of Yoda's biology, how would this work? Is it just because N.E.R.D thought it would look cool? That's probably it. The creature then raised its hand in the air, and one of the pieces of debris came flying towards me. Of course, this thing can access the Force. Unfortunately, I am not the most agile hero in existence. However, I did transform into an Ankylosaurus and tanked most of the hits. The Yoda-morph eventually even began shooting lightning at me, which was very painful. However, most of it hit my biological armor. Once I got close enough, the creature leapt at me, swinging its glowing tail again. I then transformed back into a human and grabbed the creature by the neck. It swung its tail at my arm, but I grabbed the base of its tail and bent it, stabbing the Yoda-morph in the head with its own tail. Fortunately, the heat from the blade cauterized the wound, so I didn't need to worry about the acid blood spraying me. I then cut off the creature's tail and armed myself with my new Xenosaber. Now, generally, N.E.R.D's videos tend to have about 4 drawings, unless he's doing a collaboration and wants to show up the other artists and do 6. Yeah, that's right, I'm calling you out. So, I figured there was a decent chance there were more xenomorphs running around. I was correct. Suddenly, I heard a loud roaring as a large, greenish-brown xenomorph burst through the wall behind me, sending debris flying everywhere. Of course, a xenomorph rancor. I have a bad feeling about this, I said as I switched my Xenosaber to a hammer grip. My first instinct was to simply transform into a T-Rex and fight the rank-morph head-on. However, I would then have to deal with acid blood, and I didn't exactly feel like getting my face burnt off today. So I decided to go for the King Kong method. I turned myself into a pterodactyl, a dinosaur name, by the way, that makes me want to say screw you to all of the human language, held the Xenosaber in my talons, and flew in and out, slicing the rank-morph. The rank-morph tried to swipe at me, but I was successfully able to dodge most of these. I will admit, I got a bit cocky and tried to go in for a slice to the head. However, the creature managed to hit me with its clawed hand, throwing me into the ground and making me drop my Xenosaber. The rank-morph then tried to grab me, but I grabbed a piece of debris, a metal pipe that was conveniently lying nearby, and shoved it vertically into its mouth, preventing its ability to bite me. I then transformed into my Mascucephalosaurus form that I made up, ran up the rank-morph's back, and bashed it in the head with my hammer tail, over and over again. Unfortunately, the cracking of the creature's head caused its acid blood to spray on my tail, but I coped through the pain. Eventually, its head was completely pounded in. Fortunately, when I shapeshifted back into my human form, the acid on my tail had no effect on me, seeing as I no longer had a tail. I then reclaimed my Xenosaber and waited again. This time, I didn't have to wait long, as I saw 2 long red lights coming from the dark hallway. I could immediately tell what this was. A red and black xenomorph, or as I'm calling it, a xenom-maul, immediately rushed at me. It swung its double-bladed tail at me, but I was able to block most of it with my Xenosaber, although the difference in size of both blades was starting to become an apparent issue. No, that was not meant to be a euphemism. Get your minds out of the gutter. Anyway, the two of us went back and forth, my Xenosaber managing to block most of its attacks. I trained in combat for 12 years, and that included a lot of fencing. However, it then used the force to lift me in the air and threw me against a nearby concrete pillar. The pillar cracked, but still remained somewhat stable, though it wouldn't remain that way for long. A little while into our fight, the entire building began to shake. Now, I'm in Indiana, so the chances of an earthquake happening at all are slim, let alone when I'm busy fighting a xenom-maul. So, given the Star Wars theme, I figured this was either a Xeno version of two aliens, either a crate dragon or a... Yup, a xenomorph sarlacc pit. Something that seems impossible. I'm only convinced it exists because N.E.R.D has himself a superiority complex and wanted to prove he could do it. Anyway, the creature burst through the ground, forming a giant pit in the middle of what was once an observatory. Its long tongues flailed around, trying to grab both Xenom-maul and I as we continued our fight. Fortunately, I had an idea. Now, I have a bit of a confession to make. I'm gonna sit down. Can we get some sad YouTuber apology music going? Thanks. Now, I must say, I actually kind of like the Star Wars prequels. I know. The writing isn't the best, and the digital effects are beyond awful. However, there are some good dramatic moments, the story arcs all make sense, and the humor is mostly on point, whether it be intentional or ironic. And this might be a somewhat controversial opinion, but the action scenes are better than in the original trilogy. The prequel trilogy gave us some iconic, memorable characters, no, not him, consistent and sensible story arcs, and some great action scenes, all of which can't be said for the sequel trilogy. Anyway, while fighting the Xenom-maul, I quickly turned into a pterodactyl, flipped over the creature's head, and chopped the monster in half with my Xenosaber. Then, to make sure it didn't survive and come back in an animated spin-off, I chucked its body into the Xenopit. Unfortunately, the creature, still somehow alive, had one last trick up its metaphorical sleeve. Using the force, it picked me up and dragged me down with it into the Xenopit. However, I had a plan. Given all my research on Xenos, which is about one Google search, I knew that, in most cases, these things still need to breathe. So, while I was falling, I transformed into the largest dinosaur I could, a titanosaur, and once I was in the creature's mouth, waited. It attempted to chew and swallow me, but I couldn't fit in its mouth, and its teeth couldn't get through my armor. So yes, I managed to make a xenomorph sarlacc pit choke to death. A sentence that only makes sense in this context. But this does leave me with a question. Why are these Xenos attacking me? Last time they were just trying to kill my brother and I was just a byproduct. However, this time they seem to target me. Why? Did they finally realize that I was a threat? Did they want revenge for me killing their fellow Xenomorphs? Or did you all just like the video so much that this is just gonna be my life now? Anyway, see you in the artist adaptation, and live long and prosper.